Well, first of all, the question is great because 75% of the jobs that are going to be created require some education, training, skills beyond high school. And we can't get there unless we take adults who've already gotten out of, they're past that point. We got to bring them back into the system in addition to all the kids who are currently in our schools and in our community and technical colleges and our universities. As you mentioned, no state in the nation has cut funding for higher education more than Louisiana since 2008. We will spend $700 million less this year to educate our students in our community technical colleges and our four-year universities. And we're not doing more with less, we're doing less with less. Our university presidents are having a hard time attracting and retaining the best professors, and we are having a hard time attracting and retaining our best students because they're too often going out of state. Now, you cannot invest what you do not have. And so if you're going to say it's a priority to restore our investments in higher education, you have to have a plan to have the revenue to do that. My plan is really fourfold. We have to first make sure that we attack tax expenditures that cost too much money and produce too little return on investment, and you eliminate or reduce those and create savings that you reallocate to higher priority items. Now, these are actually tax expenditures. I know I'm sitting next to an accountant, but that's what they call them. This is spending through the tax code, and you can reduce spending in that way. And you know, we have over $7 billion worth of tax expenditures on the books. Since 2010, when we were in recession, an additional $700 million of tax expenditures were created. Now, I like giving out candy. You will find me every Halloween in front of my house giving out candy. But I have probably voted for fewer tax expenditures being created over the last 8 years than anybody else in the legislature, because every year we're doing that, we're cutting higher education. We were cutting K through 12. We were cutting health care. That doesn't make sense to me. So we've got to make sure that we do that. Number two, we need to accept our federal dollars back when it helps us to meet our obligations to the people of Louisiana and actually produces some savings. The Medicaid expansion may be a question coming up, but that's the biggest example there. Thirdly, we have to create jobs and grow the economy in a way that produces net new revenue. We've all been told over the last several years how well we're doing, but we've had 7 years of revenue shortfall and 5 more projected. And so we're, in many cases, incentivizing the growth to the point where there's not net new revenue to show for it. And the best way to raise revenue is not by raising rates. It's actually by growing the economy. But if you're growing the economy and you're producing less revenue than you need to fund these priorities, then you've got a real problem. Fourthly, I would never outsource tax and fiscal policy to Grover Norquist, the Americans for Tax Reform, or anybody else who's an outside special interest group. We'll make decisions in Louisiana based upon what's best for our future. And if we will do those things, we will have the money necessary to invest in higher education, because nothing is more important for our future to create opportunity for people to live the American dream here. And also, we have to continue to diversify our economy. You know, we're seeing that today. Thank goodness this isn't the early 80s where we had 42% of our revenue dependent upon oil and gas. Now it's about 14%. But if it was more than that, you would see we would be in a real jam. And if we can continue to diversify our economy, but you do that through the higher education institutions, especially with a knowledge-based economy that is more durable and less subject to all the fluctuations with the price of hydrocarbons and other things in the economy. So that's the way I would approach that.